Mike and Frances Retallick have been farming near Orange in central western New South Wales for 12 years. Their property borders one of the nation's largest gold mines. Cadia says it's been operating in a responsible and sustainable way for the past 25 years, and for a while, its neighbours had no reason to doubt it. That changed in 2018, when the wall of a dam holding mining waste, known as tailings, collapsed. The top layer of 1,000 acres of dried out sludge turned to dust, and the mine struggled to contain it.
We went up the hill and it was like the tailings dams were boiling. It was a windy day, and you could just see these massive rolling clouds coming off the tailings dams.
Cadia Gold Mine is owned by Newcrest Mining, which is Australia's biggest gold producer and a major employer in the area.
There's close to 1,200 people that live in Orange that actually work out there. So and then you're looking at the community fundings that actually they put in per annum is around $2 million.
Since the dam wall broke, local residents have been anxious about the volume of dust they could see blowing off the mine site.
Despite the community asking on many occasions, it's many people that have been told that it's steam.
In 2021, landholders banded together to form the Cadia Community Sustainability Network. But the residents had been pressing for answers about the dam and the dust for years.
We have stood up repeatedly at community meetings and said there is a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. We've been told by members of the Community Consultative Committee to be quiet and stop asking questions.
In February last year, the group finally found some traction. The New South Wales Planning Department required Cadia to conduct an air quality study before approving an extension of the mine.
It wasn't until the independent air quality audit report was released in October of last year to the community that we discovered they were venting the crusher dust. We've got two sources of dust. One is the failed tailings dam, and then the other main source is actually the vents.
3 months ago, the Environment Protection Authority found the mine had breached air pollution standards.
The EPA required some validation and testing of the level of air emissions, which showed an unacceptably high level of pollution coming from the main funnel or vent of the Cadia mine by a factor of more than 10 times the clean air regulation limit for what's called particulate pollution, which is really dust. And when we received those results, the EPA then directed the mine to take all necessary steps to immediately come into compliance.
Cadia has acknowledged the breach and told the EPA it's taken steps to comply with clean air regulations. But the environmental watchdog says the volume of dust is concerning.
But it's important to say the mine's production of dust has been completely unacceptable in terms of the quantum, which is really the biggest driver of any potential risk.
The residents also discovered their water was tainted.
I wanted to look at the Balabular River and the platypus life. It's a famous river in having one of the last populations of platypus in a western flowing river in New South Wales.
Environmental scientist Dr. Ian Wright may have planned to study the platypus, but he found something else to investigate.
In meeting the people and sitting there and trying to organise this, I became aware of the dust, and then I asked, do you drink the water from that tank there?
He offered to test their rainwater.
What he found was very alarming. He was testing only on a few properties close to the mine, and he tested some of the dust on their outdoor furniture and found very elevated lead levels and other minerals that you would not normally expect to find on the patio table. He then approached us to do a wider study and sent us over the Christmas holidays 20 water bottles, and we, between us, tested another group of tanks, and those came back with very bad results.
The initial results were really confronting. A very large percentage of the tests showed elevated levels of metals, and in particular nickel and lead at levels higher than recommended under the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines and their health guidelines.
Dr Wright urged the residents to keep investigating.
My advice was, firstly, don't drink the water unless you're absolutely certain. But it's an incredible community, and they started running their own tests. I've actually never seen a citizen science program like this. And my advice was, get more data, get more results, and by the way, let New South Wales Health know.
Ellie McNamara lives with her young family about 12 kilometres from Cadia Mine. She had been experiencing unexplained skin reactions and went to see her dermatologist.
The first advice was to remove the source, which we'd already taken once she'd suggested that maybe the heavy metal exposure was what was causing all the skin problems. So we started carting water from in town to a spare tank that we had and attached that to the house. And as soon as I stopped using the water, I really noticed an immediate relief to some of those things. The eczema on my hands in particular cleared up really quickly.
Blood tests revealed she still had heavy metals in her system.
So it sort of shows that even though I've removed the source, there's remaining parts of the heavy metals still floating around in my body, and I'm just not really sure what the next steps are from here.
40 local residents have now had their blood tested. Frances Retallick and her husband are worried about their results.
We both have very high selenium. My husband is 1.5 times the upper limit. His nickel levels are 3 times the upper limit, and our copper is right on the limit. And my concern with that, and I'm not a medical person, nickel is a class 1 carcinogen, copper damages your immunity. It doesn't sound good, does it?
The community presented some very concerning individual blood test results around various contaminants in the blood of individuals.
The EPA is now investigating the source of the heavy metals. As requested by the watchdog, Cadia released a report containing an analysis of the lead found in local rainwater tanks. In a press release, the mine said there was no evidence linking Cadia to the lead samples. However, Professor Brian Golson, who analysed the data, told 7:30 the mine cannot be excluded as one of the sources of the lead. Under New South Wales planning laws, mines are required to monitor and report their own environmental impacts, including emissions.
They're not being forced to measure and report critical aspects of their environmental performance. That, to me, is where the regulation has fallen apart.
I think the better regime would be real-time, publicly available monitoring, and that is something we are moving to in New South Wales. We don't yet have it on many operations, but certainly I think that would be a much more appropriate way for the community to have real confidence in the data that is presented to them.
The head of the EPA believes the problems at Cadia show legislative change is needed to ensure mining projects comply with environmental and health regulations.
I think there is a policy discussion to be had in government about how do we more effectively and more deeply embed the expert environmental and engineering advice right at the start of the assessment process for projects like this, and then how do we ensure the design of the infrastructure meets the standard that is required.
The Planning Minister, Paul Scully, declined 7:30's requests for an interview, but in a statement said he's open to any proposals from the EPA that would strengthen the planning system and is committed to make sure Cadia minimises its environmental impacts. For now, the Cadia residents want public health to be at the forefront of any policy change.
Human health should come ahead of mining, whatever the mining. We need to get it right.
Boy!